Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of My Bucket List Day. So today we're going to take care of my problem Schwintek slide that I've had since the day I bought my unit. I was told by the dealer, who I will not mention here, but I was told by the dealer that the slide was installed improperly, and that's why I had a gap. I had a gap on the bottom about an inch, so the slide was kind of cockeyed in a little bit. The top went in, but the bottom was hanging out a little bit. And bottom line is I had to live with this for the entire time I had this rig. They told me it had to go back to Grand Design and they had to fix it. So when I was back up in Michigan, we called Grand Design to set up an appointment, and they were 2-3 months out for us to even get in there to have them look at it. We couldn't hang around there, of course, just like the dealers that said 2-3 months. So I had to go down the road. So I've been working with Grand Design for quite a while, and finally the Grand Design mobile RV techs came and showed up, and there's 2 of them actually that came and helped me fix the slide, and that's what we're going to talk about here today. It was not installed improperly, I came to find out. What it was is it got damaged between the time it was manufactured and the time I took delivery. Well, it was with 2 people. It was with the person who delivered the RV down to the RV dealer in Florida, and then the RV dealer had possession of it until I took possession of it. I will say I had slide toppers added to this rig. Didn't have it when I first got it, and I'm thinking that's where the issue came in. I think when they were installing the slide topper, they left something up there or on there, and bottom line is when they were playing with the slide, testing things out, they did something. And what they did is they sheared the pins on these slide tracks. And we're going to show you that after you see the install. So take a look at this install, and everything the guys had to go through, I just pretty much sat there and filmed to install the new one. And then I'll get into the details of the Schwintek slide, give you a little bit of how it works and how we can hopefully avoid this in the future. So sit back, watch the install. Here's a video of the slide, and we're going to try to demonstrate how it's very crooked, which has been from the get-go. We'll go to this side. The bottom is out when it's all the way out, much more than the top. And you can kind of see the window, how the gap is crooked now. It's kind of an optical illusion. I'll get closer with the camera. But I also noticed the tracks down here are getting very chewed up on both sides, especially on the bottom. As you see, it struggles to go in because the angle is so severe now. Does a lot of jumping. So you see the top is in all the way. Coming down the side, you see we got quite a big gap down here. So the gap on the bottom where they're closed all the way is still 3 inches. And on the top, even with the track, is 1 inch. And I will check the other side. The top on this side is 1/2 inch in the closed position. And 2 5/8 at the bottom in the closed position. So it's all kind of messed up. It is a little more severe than it was from the beginning when I took delivery of the unit. So it's gradually worked its way out of kilter even more. Okay, now that you've seen that the slide was out of whack from get-go, here are the 2 mobile RV techs from Grand Design that showed up to do this job. This is a two-person job. You cannot do this with one tech. And Mike here, the guy with the white hair and beard from Asheville, and Matt, the other gentleman from New Orleans. So the two of them are working on replacing the Schwintek slide mechanisms on each side of the slide. Here they jacked up the slide to take a little bit of the weight off so they could take the screws out without putting too much stress on the screw holes and that kind of thing. And as you'll notice, both the tracks on the top and the bottom have been removed. They've cleaned the surfaces, and now they're getting the slide mechanism, the Schwintek mechanism, to be put back in place on this side. It is, after dry fitting it, we discovered it was 1/4 of an inch too long. So they took it back out, and here they got it on the bench, and they're going to cut that 1/4 inch off so it'll fit. You notice the whole Schwintek assembly is just that, assembled. It's all put together. That's how they receive it. In fact, at the factory, they receive it the same way. So it is timed, it is lubed, it's all ready to go and be installed. It's a fairly simple install. So once they trim this up, it should slide right into place and be able to utilize the same screw holes where the original one came off of. So here's the inside view with the column removed and the tracks. So as I mentioned, the gap there is quite larger than I thought. And then over on this side, you'll see it's still installed. They haven't removed it yet. So everything is still there. You see a little gap there only because the slide's kind of halfway in. So the seals aren't closed or in the home position, whether it's slid in or slid out. So here you see the slide rails are back in place, and you see Mike here is about to use a battery from his cordless drill to slide the column in place. So they just have this little jumper cable they've made up, and they can reverse polarity on the motor to move it in or move it back out. And so he's going to connect that up here, and you'll see that the column will slide back in. And I'm going to try to show it to you here from both directions.
Ready?
Yeah, whenever you're ready. Hang on. Yeah. Stop.
Yeah, push the top out. That's funny, it's about the gap I had before. So we ran into a little bit of a problem here. The slide on the left side just wouldn't, I should say the mechanism just wouldn't go in. It was 1/8 of an inch off. So they decided to take the right side Schwintek mechanism off and slide it over just a smidgen so the side can get back in there. You see the Mike throwing down the old one, and there's the new one on the tables there. So they're going to get that one ready to install back up on the left side, and the right side now they scooted over that 1/8 inch, and now everything fits in there fine. So as you see right now, Matt is trying to trim the weather stripping up there to make room for the new piece that goes right inside there. And then here, as you see, they're dry fitting the whole Schwintek assembly right in there. But the slide,
It's the bottom that's hanging up on something.
yeah, it's
Bound.
yeah, it's
Pull it
bound.
out.
Okay, with a little maneuvering around and shifting the slide back and forth, finally got both sides on and centered up. and it's all ready to go. As you see, Mike here now is syncing up the motors, and to do that, I kind of went through this on my last video, but when you have it in the in this case the complete open position, you just slide it back and forth 2-3 inches until the motor's kind of synchronized in that open position. And as you see, Mike will be doing that here for a little bit and going back and forth till he has both ends of the slide going exactly the same and stopping at the same time. And then he'll pull it all the way in and do the same thing on that side to make sure that everything's lined up there. And then he'll do a final slide out. So let's watch Mike go ahead and synchronize these slides. And by the way, before I go, you'll find that it's more than 2-3 times. Sometimes it can take 15, 20, 30 times. You just got to do it so they slide at the same time and stop at the same time.
All right, as you can see, it's square. No more cattywomp slide. And I'll show you on the inside, we can actually open a cabinet we've never been able to open. That's exciting. This is Mike and Matt, the two heroes of the day. Got the job done. All that's left is to caulk and seal up all the holes.
So we're finally done. Everything's installed and all the motors are synced. I should say the two motors are synced. And all that's left is the silicone, the caulking and sealing of everything. So as you see, Matt's doing that right now. And once he's done with that, this job is done. So just have to let that dry before I try to slide it in, which I won't be sliding in for several days, so we're all good.
Okay, as I mentioned, we had a problem with each of the columns or the systems, the rail systems with the Schwintek slides. And the primary reason how it got out of line is unknown. However, the cause of it going out of line, we can see. And what I have here, I'm going to turn the camera on here so you can see all of this. So here are the two slides that came out of my rig. And here we are, I've taken this one apart. So as you see, I've taken the motor out. Here's the motor right there. And this is actually, I'm not sure what they call that, but it's a gear drive or worm drive on there. And what happens is the motor sits right here and it goes down inside there. Actually, this goes down inside there, and as the motor turns, this right here, it turns this shaft that goes all the way down there to the other gear, the lower part of the Schwintek slide. So where the problem lies is I'm going to pop this off now, and you're going to see, slide that down, there are rivets here. And if you can see, I'm pointing right there to two rivets. One there, well, that holds this block on. One there, and there's one on the other side. And it had sheared off. If you look on here, you see the rivets sheared off completely. And what causes that? Well, again, what causes that is if the slide got out of sync and or something blocked it from closing, and there was so much torque on the motor, it sheared these pins, and then over time it got out of line more and more and more each time. So as I mentioned, when I first took delivery of this rig,
it was already out of line at the bottom. And so it had clearly had been broken prior to me taking delivery. So I can only deduct that it was broke by the dealership when they were installing the slide toppers. I don't know that to be factual. I'm just making a little logical deduction. Fortunately, it was only done to one of the slides and not all my slides, because I have slide toppers on all of my slides. But this is a fairly simple device. The only thing that's kind of mechanical or cool is the motor here. And it appears they've got some Hall effect sensors in there that basically measures this, and that's what I believe this little blue and green wire are coming out of here. And it's sending the signal to the controller down inside the rig in my front bay, where I have a controller for each one of the slides. And it synchronizes those Hall effect sensors, synchronizes these motors, so the slide goes in and out at the same time. Both motors move it exactly the same. Now, in my last video about these slides, I basically showed you guys how to resync these motors in case they get out of a line. And that's basically, you just starting from the closed position, open it up a few inches, close it a few inches, then open it up. And you do that a few times the motor seem to be going at the same time. Then you open it all the way up and you repeat the process. Bring it in a couple inches, go back out a couple inches, in a couple inches, go back out, until everything is at completely moved at the same time. Then you open it all the way out, hold it for 3 seconds, open it up, close it all the way, hold it for 3 seconds, and boom, all the motors are synced. I shouldn't say all, there's only 2 motors, but that's how they're synced up. So, as again, it looks like those are some Hall effect sensors in there that are keeping these motors all synced up. And all the Hall effect sensor does is basically measures the rotation of a motor or a shaft or things like that. So that's how these things work. Now, on the mechanical side of the track, that's fairly simple as well. I'm going to turn around and go back to that to show you what I'm talking about. The slide will slide back and forth on this. There, you can see it rolling back and forth. So that's how it goes back and forth on there. So I'm going to take this off so you can see that a little better. That's just the cover. And you see the slide will basically roll, up and down and go across the Schwintek gears, or tracks, if you will. And that's all there is to it. And this might be easier to show, but then the motor goes in this direction, turns this gear, and it slides up and down there. And this shaft goes down to the bottom one. And there was a gear here. I don't know, it fell off somewhere. But it turns this gear here. But that's all there is to it. These little nylon rollers here, you just do a little bit of CRC grease. It's basically the silicone grease goes on there, and that's all you really need to do. And I think in the last video I showed exactly how to do that. Alright, so there you have it. That's how these Schwintek slides work, and that's what you have to do to replace them. So hopefully this was informative for you, and you got a little something out of it, or learned a little something. The Schwintek slides are very simple things. They're not really complicated. I will say you have to make sure that the slide is 100% aligned when you install these things. We, as you saw, had a little jack underneath there holding the weight of it as we took these whole slide mechanisms off. So that works out simple. This is not a one-person job. This is a 2 or 3-person job if you think you're going to try to do it yourself. It's not that hard, but make sure you've got enough hands-on in place. The only other thing that you're going to need that you saw in the video is you're going to need a little jump wire. And that is to basically move the track system in and out by putting a battery, a cordless drill battery on these and moving them in and out. And depending on how you have the polarity of the wires, it slides it in or slides it out. You can reverse that, and that's what these 2 wires here on are for, little power-up wires. So if you enjoyed this video and got a lot out of it, go ahead and hit that like, subscribe, and ring that little bell. and you'll be notified when I put out more videos. And I'd really appreciate it if you guys did all the comments and the share buttons. And if you want to help out even more, go ahead and click that join button right next to the subscribe button and become a member of my Bucket List Day Buddy member. So that's it for this how-to episode, and we appreciate you watching. Make it a great bucket list day. Goodbye.